Welcome to the Aperture Science Enrichment Center. Let's look at some of the challenges you'll face as a test participant.
10 out of 10. Now go on and play the game already. What? Do you seriously need an explanation why this game is a masterpiece? Okay, alright. I will review this one hecka large gaming phenomena. To confirm you that this game is quality stuff, I will just say the name of the company, Valve. Like, this is made by Valve, arguably the best PC gaming company or even gaming company in general. These guys had made masterpieces like the Half-Life series, which are, by the way, my favorite shooters of all time. Games like Team Fortress 2, Dota 2, and Counter-Strike, which are in fact 3 giant multiplayer games which still has an ever-growing community. And who can forget Steam, the most famous PC gaming store. Other masterpieces like, we don't talk about those games. My favorite of them all, the Portal series, known for its innovative puzzles and quick-witted humor. If I wanted to put Portal into a particular genre, it would of course be a linear first-person puzzle game. I will try not to waste your time on explaining the development because you all have basically heard it a million times before. A group of students making a beta of a game called Narbacular Drop, which has a unique portal mechanic. Valve hiring them to make a game about that concept to compensate the delay of Half-Life 2 Episode 2, bundling it with the Orange Box, a package containing Half-Life 2 and its subsequent episodes along with the new Team Fortress 2 and Portal, etc. etc. But while Narbacular Drop was just the bare bones of the formula, Portal built upon it. Though the development of Portal also started simple enough, with no story or script, with major graphical and some musical assets being reused from Half-Life 2. And as this was also being developed in the same source engine used for Half-Life 2, and they were planning to retcon it into the Half-Life universe to not waste their precious money, a decision which carried on into the final product. The game also looked much more industrial, looking like it has major assets directly ripped out of Noah Prospect, though the idea was scrapped for a much clean, at least for the half of the game, color palette. This was due to the playtester finding it too shabby and confusing to use portals on, and you know Valve takes their playtesters seriously, maybe a bit too much. I still wait for you, F-stop. But this time, it was a much more successful idea to make the textures cleaner, helping the game's graphic to age better because of its simplicity and, more importantly, giving a general sense of loneliness in the atmosphere. The most shocking part for me, however, was that GLaDOS wasn't a part of it at the beginning of development, who is probably my favorite part of Portal. But she lived, again, because of the playtesters, who weren't able to grasp the concepts of Portal. So they basically thought of making a teacher, and the theme appropriate one is an AI, so we got GLaDOS. And to keep the players hooked, they also made a narrative, which is pretty bare bones to be honest. But that is the charm of it, and the real delight of the game is not the narrative anyways, it is what it comes packaged with. In the music department, it is fantastic, focusing more on ambient tracks to enhance the almost surreal atmosphere. If backrooms existed, this is what it would have felt like. I've heard people say that the feeling is called liminal, I guess, but we won't dive too deep into that. Though there are 2 tracks I like to listen even casually, namely 4000 Degrees Kelvin and, of course, Still Alive, one of my favorite lyrical songs from a video game, rivaled only by its sequels and credits song, Want You Gone. It would be an understatement to say that this song is popular in the gaming community, becoming one of the most iconic songs in gaming history. The music of Portal is, again, perfect. So, now that we got the development and music out of the way, let us talk about the gameplay, which is simple by today's standard but would have been mind-blowing back then. Unlike most FPS, you did not have a weapon, but you did have a gun, probably the best gun in gaming history, the handheld portal device. This little gun is capable of making small tears in space and enable intra-dimensional travel with just a quick shot by the gun in your arm, or shoot here, shoot there, jump here, come out of there, to simplify. Even the idea to use this as a puzzle concept would have been far-fetched if I hadn't heard of Portal. How could you make puzzles with the help of portals? The answer is like Portal. I really cannot explain the puzzles of Portal. Sometimes it is to reach the objective while avoiding obstacles. Sometimes it is to redirect energy balls to their required spots. Sometimes to drop turrets. And sometimes it is all about quick thinking. But that is it. A simple concept used to make endlessly fun puzzles that make you feel like Batman. Sorry for that, I had to do it. Like, Batman is smart and nobody? Nobody? Moving on. Yes, the gameplay of Portal is really simple, but due to the short playtime, it doesn't get repetitive. This is a section where I liken Portal 2 over the first, as the gameplay variety is higher in 2. Portal 1 almost feels like a beta version of Portal 2 in terms of gameplay, and wouldn't have worked nearly as much as it does if it had gone in the original direction of just puzzles and no story or comedy elements. But other than that, I liken the first one over the second. Next, graphics. This is a short section because unlike a Half-Life 2, this did not want to innovate with graphics, and it is not a bad thing at all. They both had different goals, and it is no surprise that a 14-year-old game optimized by Valve made in Source Engine works well. And the graphics haven't aged a bit aside from being a bit pixely, but that is just nitpicking. Other than that, it looks clean, runs fast. Next section, humor. Now, this is my favorite part of the game. This section also covers the story and GLaDOS too, just so you know. The humor of Portal is iconic to say the least, creating yet another Valve meme along with HL3 confirmed and Well can't count to 3, namely the companion cube, and I have to do this just for this section, the dreaded cake is a lie. Now I do not think that the popularity of these two stem because of some interesting reasons. The phrase cake is a lie is just random when taken out of context, which is funny. Just look at all the out of context videos on YouTube. The unknown is not only terrifying but also funny, I guess. Same with the companion cube. But both of these aren't really the star of Portal's humor. It is genuinely funny black humor. And did I tell you that Portal is the funniest thing I've ever experienced? Yeah, it is that funny. Though, if you enjoy Portal's humor or not also depends upon your taste, as comedy is very subjective. If you are not a fan of dark, deadpan humor with occasional insults and random things mixed in, this game is not for you. My favorite example is that if you hold on to the intelligent core for long enough, he will go from telling a recipe of a cake to telling the recipe of a cake but with humans inside it. Some may say the comedy relies heavily on shock value, but that could not be further from the truth, as it uses clever dialogue and contextualizes the situation before telling a joke. Half of the jokes being GLaDOS insulting you with extremely clever and sarcastic comments, with an extremely passive-aggressive way of even giving death threats and not sounding like she wants you literally melted. And there are some shock value jokes here and there, but they are few and far between. A cheap toilet joke used in a majorly clever comedy will be in fact funny and not cheap. Same thing with Portal. It does use shock value jokes sometimes, but they are actually shocking because they are not always popping up. And the short playtime also helps. By the way, do you know who GLaDOS is? Only the most iconic video game villain after Bowser. She's probably the funniest character I've ever encountered in any form of media. Ironic considering she tries to melt you in 4000 Kelvin. Now, I consider this video non-spoiler, even though I am gonna spoil the story, because honestly the story is pretty straightforward, especially at the time when the game was released, when Portal 2 or the Lab Rat comic weren't even canon. The story goes like this. You are an unnamed woman whose name will be later confirmed Shell, who is kidnapped and being experimented on by an unnamed AI that is later confirmed named GLaDOS, or Genetic Life Form and Disk Operating System. The DOS part being an homage to MS-DOS, and that is where the puzzles stem from. You are being experimented, and that is why. GLaDOS is also known to be passive-aggressive, as the way she talks and says is not clearly threatening at all, mostly, but it also completely clear that she is insulting or threatening to kill you. The first half of the game ends with GLaDOS who tries to melt you, who promised you a cake. Where is my damn cake? Anyways, there is also one more joke in this part, but it is more meta. The song that plays in this part is named 4000 Kelvin again, the burning point of carbon, the stuff humans are made out of. This is the humor I am talking about. A lot of thought process has been gone into this stuff, rather than murder funny. Something of a trend in newer black comedy shows, movies and games. I do not want to spoil the humor for a 14-year-old games for you, so I won't continue any further on this topic. Basically, it is the funniest thing I've ever experienced, and GLaDOS is up there with gaming villains like Flavi or Majora's Mask, which is saying something. So, if a game is this good, does it even have any flaws? Well, people say that the game's length is too short, which it definitely is, clocking in at around 3 hours at max, and it felt even shorter because I was hooked and played it a bit too much in succession. but I do not think this is a worthy criticism. During the 3-hour run, we get an extremely focused experience. And don't get me wrong, I love me some long non-linear experiences like Castlevania Symphony of the Night. But Portal is good on its linear way too, making you sit on one of the most fun roller coaster in gaming land. Besides, people complain about games being quantity over quality nowadays, but they also complain about games being quality over quantity at the same time. It is impossible to please everyone, ain't it? If there was even something that I could have theoretically criticized, is that the ending could have felt abrupt because of its short playtime. But even that doesn't happen due to Portal's masterful pacing. And having a 3-hour long game's ending feel satisfying than most is something of a rare feat. Take for example Titanfall 2, a 5-6 hour game which, while amazing during its runtime, felt a bit lackluster on how it ended, suddenly giving a heavy gut punch and then saying, okay, bye bye, now we are setting up for the sequel that you may never get, and closes up, leaving a bad taste in the mouth. Portal does not do that, at least until the updated ending, which is itself not so bad by the way, and I think that is something to be applauded. So, Portal is one of the best games I've ever played which still holds up to this very day. And that is why I give Portal, probably the only game I'm going to give this score to, a perfect 10 out of 10. A masterpiece that even non-gamers have to experience, perfectly balancing gameplay, story, humor, pacing and everything in between. So basically, if you're a modern gamer, then you owe yourself to give Portal a shot. You won't regret it. Thanks for watching the video. Please subscribe and comment if you want a spoiler-filled review of a game. And now to abruptly end the video because I'm still an amateur.